A very good afternoon. I'm really happy that you're here together in this afternoon to talk about NFT, non fundable tokens, and the art world, something which basically is going viral and it's going huge. Now, we have two interesting guests to talk about the phenomenon. I first have John Crain. He's the CEO of SuperRare, one of the platforms where artists come to basically display their work and basically get paid and have a very interesting relationship with the art after it is sold. And I have Hessel Stuut, who is a famous artist in the Netherlands who makes digital art. Welcome, gentlemen, and wonderful to have you here, John. It's early in the morning. Where are you at the moment?
Currently in Miami.
In Miami. Okay, so you're having a fantastic, fantastic climate. You're really enjoying it. How's life with Corona there?
Things seem to be going back to normal. So, yeah.
Yeah. People are vaccinated. You can go in restaurants. You can basically connect to each other and that kind of stuff.
Yep, it seems to be the case.
Okay, we're a couple of months behind, 2 months, but it's does it feel good to go back to normal?
Absolutely. It was a long time inside. So.
Okay, so this NFT thing. This morning I was on television explaining it to the public in 3 minutes what an NFT is and how these platforms work and how the art world suddenly gets connected to the crypto world and what's happening. And you're on the forefront of that movement. So we're going to talk about what your platform does, what the whole thing of NFT is, what it does for artists, what kind of artists are currently involved in it, what does it mean in terms of for the buyers, what do they get, and also some nice examples. But John, first, can you tell me how does somebody become the CEO of one of the most most popular NFT platforms where art meets crypto?
Yeah, so it was a little bit of a meandering path. I started my career working in advertising, so creative technology. I was always very interested in art. Kind of created my own art. Was an avid sort of doodler. And at some point I learned about processing, which is a programming language for artists, and just became very fascinated. It was created by an incredible artist, Casey Reese. And, it just kind of like shaped a lot of the work that I was really passionate about. And kind of at the same time, one of my other passions, I was living in New York, discovered the New York Bitcoin meetup, and kind of fell down the crypto rabbit hole. And eventually I got to kind of merge those two passions and started working on SuperRare.
But you also worked for Consensus and Block Apps, so you really got into that world.
Yeah. So I worked in the crypto industry for a couple of years, and then when I saw the work around NFTs, like designing a standard for unique digital objects, got very excited and kind of went to go, build a platform that I wished existed, right? I thought digital art was sort of it's kind of in a small subset of art. If you go to Art Basel or any of these art fairs, it's still mostly, canvas, oil on canvas. Nothing against people who create art like this. Just a lot of the art that I was interested in was natively digital, and so NFTs seemed like a simple and elegant solution as a way to kind of support artists, but then also a way for collectors to kind of be involved in to really create a large kind of art economy.
Yeah. Okay, well, so show us the basics of the platform. If you go to SuperRare, what do you get?
Yeah, sure. So, I think, I like to think about Super kind of like, Christie's meets Instagram, right? So I think, a lot of digital culture is kind of natively social. And that's something that early on we wanted to, build into the product. Let's see. I think my internet's going a little bit slow.
Of course, in Miami, you don't expect that there's much internet there.
Yeah. Everyone's at the beach. So you can kind of see, right, like there's, an activity feed of, people who are creating artworks and also collecting artworks. So there's various types of, auctions that can take place. So in this case, we had a collector, Crypto Gagosian. It's a very cheeky name, who just outbid somebody on this this piece of art, Circle of Life. So we could actually go take a look. So Circle of Life is this NFT marks the obsolescence of the boundary between art, fashion, and advertising. So like there's sort of two components to SuperRare. There's a technology component that allows artists to mint NFTs. When SuperRare launched in 2018, we were one of the only places where you could mint those NFTs. But then we also have sort of like a marketplace and collecting platform where artists and collectors can kind of meet and do commerce. And so if you look here, you can see that there's an auction running for this specific artwork. It ends in about 1 day and 3 hours. Uh-huh. And we've had 3 different individuals participate in this auction. PC Toe, Marat Gulhem. And I think this is where it really gets interesting. Uh-huh. Because of the nature of kind of distributed ledgers and blockchain technologies, you get a nearly perfect provenance record for these artworks, and that's quite challenging in our existing art markets, right? Yeah. So you can see here, the artist created the artwork 2 days ago, and if you really want to, you can even dig into the technical blockchain component and kind of verify yourself that indeed, it was actually this specific artist and it was created 2 days ago.
Do you know who this person is when you get when you become an artist? Are you doing some kind of know your customer kind of verification process?
Yeah, so all of the artists on SuperRare, we kind of vet. So we have an internal curation team who works with trusted community partners who are artists who are already part of the SuperRare community, and there's a vetting process to make sure that the art's authentic. I think if you think about digital content, right, there's going to be trillions of NFTs, and it's going to be important to know which ones are authentic and which ones are not. And so we're really trying to be kind of that trust layer between collectors and the art.
Yeah, because I heard some horror stories of a friend of mine. She told me a story like there can be created by any artist and just ripped off Instagram or ripped off anywhere and then put online as an NFT. And that happened to several people already, and that their art is being sold by some other artist. And how do you verify?
We'll get to that point a little bit. First, Dave, the basic, but this is a very important person. So now this piece of art, what was bid for it? You sort of 3 people bidding. What was the total price at the moment?
Sure.
1.65 Ethereum. Is that your basic currency, or can you basically?
Yeah, so the currency being used is Ethereum, and so there's a little bit of a bidding war happening here. So you can see that looks like the auction was kicked off with 1 Ethereum. Somebody came in with 1.1. Again, like there was another bid about an hour ago for 1.5, and then again for 1.65. So kind of traditional English auction, with a sort of a countdown. I think one of the interesting things here, though, is the auction itself is taking place on the Ethereum blockchain, and it's a set of these smart contracts that conduct the auction. And so that's another great feature is like Ethereum provides all those sort of escrow solutions. So this is sitting in a smart contract. No one can remove their funds. We don't have access to it, neither does the artist. This is just happening automatically through the Ethereum blockchain.
Uh-huh. How many transactions do you have to do? So Ethereum is the basic of it, and it's basically open a smart contract, and you basically help to put that contract together. There are some options the artist can have, I presume, and then it's basically put on the blockchain. How many transactions do you have to do? Because a transaction is quite expensive on Ethereum, just like between I saw last week it was between $8 and $50 per transaction on Ethereum. How many transactions do you need to basically buy?
Yep. So I think it kind of depends on the nature of the transaction. So some artworks on SuperRare just have sort of like a set price. So they might not be conducting an auction. In that case, you would just need to conduct one transaction. Yeah. But it really varies. So if there's a very active English auction happening, then there might be quite a few transactions that take place.
Yeah. So every bit is a transaction.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so this is then we're going to talk about Ethereum 2.0 later, because then the price hopefully will go down. So, okay, then if I'm an artist and I want to put something on there, what kind of choices do I have in this smart contract? Can I, because I thought one of the most intriguing things is if I sell to somebody, and then if somebody sells it to somebody else, the original link to the artist is still maintained, right?
Yep, that's correct. So part of the our development team created one of the first royalty systems for these smart contracts, and so one of the beautiful parts about these NFTs is when the artist. So I guess another thing to point out is on SuperRare, the artists are creating these NFTs themselves. So this is different than some platforms that create the NFT on behalf of the artist. So you get this, great provenance record, and a byproduct of that is it makes it very easy to pay royalties, if art trades, later on in the secondary market. So another reason a lot of folks like to use SuperRare is that the smart contracts provide a 10% royalty when art is resold in the secondary market.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point compared to regular art, because when I sell a painting, I used to paint when I was younger, and when I sell a painting, I have to pay a lot of royalties to the gallery, and after my painting is being sold, and maybe if I get really super famous later on, and this painting actually becomes more valuable, I don't ever get to see anything of that. So I think this is an interesting point of the whole NFT thing, that you can resell the art and that you also benefit as an artist from if it goes back on the market.
Okay, so I'm a person now. I understand. I see a piece of digital art. I can buy it. I can buy it with Ethereum, and then it's mine, or is it my copyright, or is it my user right, or do I have the right to sell it on your platform, or is it universally mine? How does this ownership thing work?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and we kind of tried to model it in a similar way as kind of like the contemporary art market exists today. So when you buy a painting, you don't have the copyright to the painting. You can personally enjoy it. You might be able to publicly display it, right? That's a right that doesn't always necessarily come with, a painting that you buy. And so it's quite similar with SuperRare. So you can, personally display, publicly display, and what you get is this NFT that was created by the artist. So we really like to think about these as sort of digital manifestations of, paintings.
Yeah, so the NFT, which a lot of people don't know, but a non fundable token, a token which stands for one particular thing, like this digital art. It means that it's sort of a contract between me and between the artist and the buyer, that I own this. I don't have copyright, but I own it. Or how does it work?
Right. Yeah. So what you own is this NFT, and I like to think about it kind of like a certificate of authenticity. So it's minted by the artist, and only one of them exists on Ethereum, and you can kind of do what you like with it. So you can transfer it around to different wallets. You could even destroy it if you wanted to. You could get rid of it so no one else could take ownership of it. So it's, I think NFTs can do a lot of different things. I think there's a lot of kind of confusion around what they are, but I really view them as sort of like a medium for virtual property.
Yeah. And then if I I know that there's only one of them, so nobody else can buy or sell this piece of art if I own it. Is that part of the deal with the artist? The artist cannot put it on another platform.
That's correct.
And do you, if you own an NFT, are you allowed to post the NFT on Instagram? For instance, if I buy a video, can I post it on my own account if I'm the owner of it?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And so I think, it sort of takes, like the scarcity model and like inverts it, I think, with like digital, content broadly, right? Like the most scarce video on the internet is it would be a video that everyone in the world had seen, right? That's like the scarcity there is, it's sort of inverted. Whereas like there's billions of videos that have 2 views that no one knows about, right? And so like, what is, where is the value being created, with virtual property, I think is a very interesting question.
Yeah. So if a video gets viewed more often, it becomes more rare if you sell only one piece of ownership of it, basically.
Maybe, yeah. And we don't, I mean, that's, like an interesting thing to think about. I think we're discovering, right, that the market's sort of doing its thing and, assisting.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. You started something, you have this signature of authentication. It doesn't mean I have the copyright. Does it also mean if I want to basically print a bunch of posters out of it, or I want to basically sell it to a TV station, or to basically, do I own it in that respect? Do I have the use of the artwork? Is that determined in the smart contract, or how does that work?
No, so I think that's determined more in the terms of service. So again, I think it's, it's quite similar to a physical painting. Like you have a painting, you can hang it in your house. Like, does that mean you can make huge advertisements and say like, I have one of Hessel's paintings, they're on show tomorrow? Yeah. I think that's part of the agreement that like, when the painting was purchased would probably be decided on, right? Like what, kind of comes with the painting.
So I think that's separate contract, it's a separate thing.
Yeah, I think it's, it's quite similar to rights that transfer with physical paintings, right? Yeah. I think what's interesting here is most people have never really thought about like what you get when, like, what do you get when you buy a $100 million Andy Warhol?
Yeah. That's also
like,
something.
And why do people buy them? I think most people have never thought about, the most common thing people say is like, oh, you can screenshot it and now I have the art. And you're like, okay, you can look up the Mona Lisa online. Why does everyone go to Paris and look at it in person? There's something different. And so I think it's the same where it's like, when you own the NFT, the record that was created by the artist, right? This is an object that was digitally signed by the artist and you have the only one, and everyone can see that you're the only owner, right? There's something special about that. And so, like you can, so anyway, I think it's an interesting thing where like, it's once you start thinking about the psychology of collecting, it gets very fascinating. I find
the numbers go up quite quickly, and also the old names out of the art industry are getting into it. So Christie, I saw, is using it. We had sales of 63 million for digital work. So the whole artwork is really being shoot up, and I talked to one of the artworks houses, the auction places, and they said, well, we are accepting now Ethereum, we're accepting Bitcoin, because completely different kind of people are getting into the art industry. That the people who have crypto stuff, cryptocurrency, are not your normal art collectors. They are much more flexible. They're much more willing to play with it and to see where it's going. Is that also your experience? Who are the people who basically collect on your platform?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting mix, right? I think there's sort of cross-pollination happening in both directions. And so there's, individuals like collectors and artists from the more established art world who are getting interested in NFTs. collecting on SuperRare, but then also I think NFTs are sort of a gateway to art, right? Like they're much easier, like it's an easier thing to go onto a website and buy an NFT as compared to like going to a gallery and buying a painting. And so I think we're seeing the two groups are like cryptocurrency enthusiasts and art enthusiasts coming together.
Okay. Well, let's talk for a second about Hessel. I first saw Hessel when he was on TV in the Netherlands and he changed my view of Amsterdam. So take a look at this. This is really cool. I mean, we are a totally flat country, and he made digital art where you basically see Amsterdam, and suddenly Amsterdam became a mountainous city around the world. I mean, and you don't think it's funny, I think, John, but this is really, I mean, the Dutch were really going, wow, and it was all over the place, and it really stirred up a lot of discussion. What you can do with art and how totally real it looks. And so my question is, is this something which could be an NFT? Or what are the necessities? What do you need in an NFT artwork?
Sure. So yeah, this is absolutely something that could be an NFT, and I think there's a lot of hype and discussion around NFTs, but like really all NFTs is this sort of, it's like if you think about the internet, right, there's like all the weird acronyms that nobody knows at the beginning of a web page. It's like http://www. Like that's what the NFT is. It's a standardized way of recording and transmitting data, essentially, right? Like NFTs, a standardized way to record data on a distributed ledger. So they can almost represent anything. And there's various use cases where it makes a lot of sense. And so I think the first obvious one to me, and the one that I was passionate about, was digital art. And so any type of digital art, if you sort of encapsulate it in an NFT, you kind of give it this long-standing identity, right? And now the NFT itself can age, right? You've kind of like encapsulated it at a moment in time, and so yeah.
So Hessel, show us a little bit more of your work, and tell us what kind of questions you have about using an NFT platform like SuperRare.
Well, yeah, I can show you a little bit of the stuff I have done. I made a lot of video work. This is something I did for a video clip, and I think just some scenes out of it.
Ouch. Oh no, not ouch.
Yeah. And I can think of why I selected this, because I thought this is a video that can be interesting also for this kind of stuff, I guess. So this is a loop. This is something else I did, and it's basically like tattoos.
Live tattoos on a body?
Yeah, it's also for a video clip I made. And I like to play with reality a little bit. So that's also what you saw with the Amsterdam Alps. And
what do you normally do for? I mean, who do you make those videos for, or is it your own work?
Sometimes it's for myself, and sometimes it's in this case, for another artist.
I saw the tattoo move. So it's like a live tattoo.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and I like to play with this kind of stuff. I used to work in advertisement a lot, and also did video projection mapping for a lot of companies, and also for events and live stuff. Mm-hmm. And I also work a lot for bands and other artists doing live visuals. You haven't shown the other one yet, but I can do it as well. Just open.
Oh, that's okay. We have enough. There was one thing which I thought was absolutely disgusting.
Yeah. Well, this is something.
Do you want to make that pitch do you want to make a pitch?
Yeah, this is maybe a nice time to pitch something, because, like I said, you don't get to talk to CEO of SuperRare every day. So this is something I thought would be great for an NFT, maybe. So this is called Pieces of Shit, and it's kind of I had to think of Duchamp a little bit, and I made like a digital representation of poop. Like this is a 3D render, and if you can't really see it now, but there's also some damp coming off it. How did you say it?
Yeah.
Water or
Yeah, I don't
condensation,
know. It's
steam.
condensation. Yeah, that's what I meant. And I made a couple of pieces, and like this is a reference to South Park.
Yeah.
This is this is the Randy March 8.6 Keurigs piece of shit, and I also made
history.
piece of history exactly. And this I got the second one, and this is I'm not sure why it's not playing. Now it's playing, and this is a Pollock inspired piece, and I thought it would be nice to put an American flag in there because the Americans like to claim a lot, so I thought this would be nice. And it can be accompanied by a set of cards because I also saw a lot of playing cards as NFTs, so you can make some disgusting pieces of cards as well.
Incredible.
There's some text up there. So I'm thinking of making this whole series of shit, and I think what the interesting thing is with NFTs, it's something that has not got any value suddenly can become valuable. So, and I think it would be incredibly funny if this piece of shit can become digital piece of shit can get value. So the whole idea of the work is that it starts to get interesting whenever it's getting sold, and then you have something to talk about. So I can say, I sold my piece of shit for a couple of Ethereum online. So this is the whole idea about
it's a piece of performance art in and of itself.
Yeah, kind of. So the whole performance is the selling of the piece of shit, and I think if you sell it for high enough value, then it even becomes more interesting. So I was kind of hoping to achieve this with this series, and also and I thought of a lot of more ideas. There's a lot of more pieces of shit in the making. So I have all this.
I guess you have to make different kind of work for different kind of people. This makes me think about Italian movie. I think Pasolini or something like that made a movie about shit, and where people had dinner in extremely exquisite in a castle with the most highest form of luxury in gold, and they were eating shit. It was so horrible. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Hessel. It really stirred up a lot of emotions in me. Let's go. What if you? I mean, of course. I mean, you are a curated platform, so you basically you don't want to have too many artists. You want to have the right artists. But how do you do that? How do you curate? What kind of people do you have? I guess the collectors can just join, but what about the artists? How do you do that? And what are the?
I mean, so I think, we want to have a broad kind of like cross section, right? Like we want to give new, young, and emerging artists, right? Like part of this was to kind of give these digital artists who didn't have, kind of like access to art market economies, access to that. So there's like, to some aspect, there's kind of this like, it's an overused phrase, but like the democratization of like, access to an art market. But at the same time, it's challenging, right? Like art is different than, YouTube, where you just want to get as many videos on, right? Like it's not just, art isn't really about consuming more. It's about like stopping and being thoughtful. And so I think our approach is generally to take as broad of a cross section as possible. So bringing on young emerging artists who no one has really heard of, but have a lot an interesting message and are bringing
but it's like a gallery. You are a gallery, and you have people, and you basically judge. Hey, we don't want to have too many of these, and we want to have a little bit of. They need to be different, so you don't want to have as many, but you want to basically manage the process. Here's a question of Douwe. He wanted to know. How do you deal with the Ethereum transaction fee? Who pays that transaction fee? Is that paid out of your model? What kind of? So that brings us to your business model also. I mean, what is the price of for what goes to the artist and what goes to you?
Yep. So for the Ethereum transaction fee are paid by collectors, and so our model is 15% in the primary market. And then in the secondary market, it's a 3% fee to the platform, and we pay a 10% royalty to the artist.
Okay, it's 15%, and the people who bid are paying the every time you bid, you basically pay a transaction fee because you basically, and you put it into you put a transaction. Is that a transaction you do to you, and you basically send it back after after somebody else bids higher, or how does that work?
Yeah, so that's all automated through the sort of smart contract system.
Yeah. Okay, so that is basically you basically deposit the transaction fee. You deposit the Ethereum into an account, and if somebody overbids you, you get it back. Okay,
that's correct.
15% is for you, and 85% is for the artist. And then
Yep.
afterwards, you say 3%. It's 10%. There's in the second market when you basically send it to somebody else. When you sell it to somebody else, do I need you to sell it to somebody else, or can I have this non fundable token? Can I do that myself, just as a normal Ethereum transaction?
So you can, once you have the token, you can transfer it wherever you want. But just in our secondary market, 10% goes to the original artist, and then our fee is 3%.
And can you resell this piece also on another platform? If I bought it on SuperRare, can I sell it on whatever I want?
Yep. So you absolutely can. That was another early question. Is like, people were like, well, no one's going to use the secondary market because you can just sell it anywhere.
Yeah.
But you also gain a reputation as a collector, right? So anyone can see. I think that's one of the nice things about the transparency in the market is people develop a reputation, and you can see how they're transacting.
Okay. So if I can do the transaction myself, but if I transact on your platform, then it's pretty obvious for everybody that the transaction took place. And you basically have a whole system of reputation of the artist and reputation of the thing, and that is worth 3% plus 10%. So I basically, if I sell it, I get, as a seller, I get 87%. And or how is that money? How is your fee being split between? Is it split between P2, or is basically the seller paying for it?
So as the seller, you would get 90%, and the 3% is actually on top of the sale price. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Hey, what about legal issues? How strong is my ownership? If the artist just decides to put the same artwork somewhere else, or change 3 pixels or something like that. I mean, if we have a conflict, because I don't trust Hessel. I mean, Hessel, I don't trust.
You shouldn't.
Yeah.
No.
It's just like.
Well, so again, I think it's not really dissimilar from an existing art market, right? If I think there's kind of like the famous Damien Hirst shark in the tank, where he sold one for, I think it was $12 million, and then 2 years later created a second one, sold it for $6 million. Aggravated the original collector. I think again, like, art is very reliant on people's reputations, and that's a big part of it, right? So it's if somebody says, I mean, like when on the SuperRare platform, the artists are agreeing that this is a one of one, they're not going to sell another one. If they do, and like, it's very personal, right? Like, I think arts, there's transactions involved, but it's not really a transactional relationship. Often, collectors and artists are like, right, part of the fun is becoming friends, right? You're also a patron. And so, you don't really necessarily have any legal repercussions.
There's no connection between the legal, because I can go to the court. I mean, if somebody basically says, "Hey, I have an agreement," and then now somebody makes a second copy, I can go and basically sue him, and whatever the judge says. Is there something like that on your platform, or is there something? Are you going to connect to legal systems in the different countries?
So we have a fairly straightforward terms of service, and the artist is agreeing that they're not going to make another copy. So you could, use that if you wanted to kind of pursue, a legal recourse. But again, I would say the stronger sort of thing to rely on is the reputation, right? Like if artists are going, you're not going to be, as soon as you did it once, you'd never be able to sell another piece of art. And so like you could cannibalize your market if you wanted to, but there wouldn't be a very large incentive there.
Yeah, but for instance, like I asked earlier, I know someone who her work got ripped off. Someone else sold it on an NFT market, and probably won't be yours because you guys are checking everyone. But it's very possible that someone's art got ripped off and just put on the market, and then the other one is the official owner, the so-called fake artist. So if I get a legal issue, how does it work? Because legal law in the Netherlands can maybe differ from the US, or I think it can get really complicated, especially with such a new and underdeveloped piece of way of working. And are you guys also thinking about that kind of legal issues and how that would work out?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, so we've, tried to make our terms of service as like straightforward and without, a lack of legalese, right? We want these to be kind of like, I think that's been a sort of a problem in the art world is, right? Like artists don't really know necessarily what kind of, like where they stand legally, right? And so like we've made a concerted effort to build sort of very straightforward legal terms, right? Like I know every country has different laws, but if we make, very straightforward kind of legal wrappers is kind of what we like to call them, then you can, our hope is that it would be, useful for no matter what country you're in, because it's, very simple and straightforward.
Yeah. All right. And also I have another question, because if I have a digital work, say a video, and I want to sell this video, and this video is like 4K resolution or 8K resolution, and you put it on the website, obviously you're gonna put a small excerpt of the video, or and I'm gonna sell this 8K video. Then they have to. My washing machine is going off. Then they have to.
Thank you for sharing that, Hessel. That's really nice. Your washing machine is ready.
Yeah, I can hang my.
Glad your clothes are clean.
Yeah, exactly. But if someone who buys my art, he wants to download this 8K video to exhibit this in his own house, or do whatever he wants with it, or
public.
How does this work? Because this piece is stored on a separate server, I guess, if you buy the artwork. And how can you verify the identity of the realness and the authenticity of this piece, because it's linked to the piece, the NFT
transaction?
Yeah. So that is also another good question. So the way the NFTs kind of technically work is you end up with sort of like a fingerprint. So with distributed ledgers, you kind of want to keep as little information on them as possible, because you have to pay for the usage. And so in this scenario, you take what's called a hash, which is basically like, we'll take a fingerprint of your high-res 8K file. And the nice thing about a hash is it doesn't matter if the file is 1 pixel or 8K. A hash is the same size no matter what the file is. And so that's what gets stored kind of in the token itself. And so you have a sort of this like cryptographic proof of what the artwork is.
Okay.
Yeah, and so you kind of have this link between.
But John, if I then make a copy of that 8K file, it will have the same hash, right? You can prove that you have the original file, but there can be thousands of copies around there in the whole world. But you can basically verify if that's the real copy.
Right, and so I mean, again, I think it's quite. You say, I'm an incredible art forger. How do you verify the real Andy Warhol with the fake Andy Warhol? You'll say, well, this one has a certificate of authenticity that we trust, and it's quite similar, right? So if you wanted to resell the artwork, you would need the NFT and also
we can really compare it. A couple of more questions. You do digital art. What do you think about what's happened in the physical object? If you connect an NFT to you can connect it to any kind of asset and any kind of object, really. Do you see that also going as fast? Is that going faster or not as fast or the same? Or how's that movement going?
Yeah, so I think it's very interesting, right? I think, again, provenance is challenging with physical artworks. And so an NFT is a dramatically superior sort of certificate of authenticity than a piece of paper or even just having your own digital record. I think, there's already, but like for us, we're more excited about digital just because the market is sort of younger and more it's underserved, whereas there's a pretty vibrant sort of, physical art market. But I think it's great, right? Like having a very secure digital certificate that accompanies physical artwork is a great idea.
Okay. And what kind of platforms do you know that do real NFT? I mean, we saw it at Christie's. We saw all these different art houses do. You said that you make technology, right? You basically have made technology so that I, as an artist, can basically submit this piece of art to your platform, and I can set up a smart contract. At the moment, you have this rule of 10%, but can you imagine that you have that? Is that technology which you deliver? Do you deliver that to other platforms? Can you imagine that you will be a technology deliverer instead of a platform operator?
Yeah. So I think there's our focus right now is sort of providing tools and cultivating the NFT digital art market. But I think long-term NFTs are going to be very useful for a number of different use cases in art.
Okay. I have to, I'm going to end this session in a minute. I just want to know, how big is this platform of yours, and how big is it in terms of market share? So how many pieces of art have you put on the auction, and what's the most valuable? Tell us a little bit about how things are going.
Sure. So I think as far as pieces of art go, I think there's about 30,000, and I think about 20,000 or so have sold.
Wow. Okay.
The most expensive piece of art that sold was about $1.7 million in the secondary market.
Oh, can you show us that? Do you still have it on that platform? Can you show us what kind of thing that is? That is 1.7. So it's significant. And what is the average price? What is the most frequently used price?
The average price is, so the most common price is about $1,000. So like the median average. But if you take the average, including the extremes, I think it's about $8,000.
Okay. Yeah. And so how many new pieces come to your platform now every day? Or how many auctions are basically used and finished? Is that 10 a day or 20 or 50?
That's a good question. Off the top of my head, I think we're probably running around 50 auctions a day or so.
Yeah. And how many people work in your company?
We have about 25 people.
Okay. And they're all over the place, or what is the?
Yeah, they're spread. Most of them are in the States, but we do have an international team, and so people are kind of spread out.
Yeah. And do you still have something old-fashioned like an office, or how does that work?
We do not have an office.
So this is a multi-million-dollar business. I mean, it's tens of millions of business in terms of how much money goes through there. It's very profitable because you get 15% and you don't have an office.
There you go.
Okay. And you started in 2018, right?
Yes. So April 2018.
In 5 years, where will we be, John, with this business?
So, I mean, I think what's interesting, and art really, if you think about the art market today, there's about 400 serious collectors in the world. And I think that's a shame because there's, hundreds of thousands of artists. And so our sort of vision for SuperRare is to build the tools that make it easy for people to sell art and to collect art. And so like the long-term goal is that, everybody, like if you think about music, if you ask somebody, what kind of music do you like? Someone can say jazz or hip hop right off the top of their tongue. But if you ask somebody, like what kind of art are they into? People are like, what are you talking about? And you're like, oh, do you collect art? People would say, well, no, I'm not a billionaire. And so I think there's a huge opportunity to teach people about art, how, on the artist side, like creating art, but also on the collecting side, like how do you appreciate art? What's a good way to support artists? I think that's something that lots of people are interested in.
And you do every kind of art. I mean, digital art can be pictures, can be video, can be music, can be any kind of type of digital. As long as it's with ones and zeros, you basically can auction it off there.
Yep. And so this piece up here, Death Dip by Xcopy, who was one of the very early artists on SuperRare. So I think he's a great example, right? He's one of my favorite glitch artists. He had a huge following on Tumblr and Giphy, but was not participating in the economics of art. And I think NFTs are a perfect medium for art like this.
And is it always about the artist with a lot of followers, or can it be about an aspiring artist without any followers?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's part of the that's one of the exciting things with the internet, right? You can it is to some extent everyone has the same ability to access it, and then it's a good place to start your career.
And is it anyone has the same ability to access SuperRare or just the NFT market?
I think the NFT market, right? Like if you want to start selling art in the existing contemporary art market, that's quite challenging. If you want to start selling an NFT, it's significantly easier, and getting easier by the day.
Yeah, and does it always also account for SuperRare, or do you have like a very strict selection, or what is this selection kind of based off, if I may ask?
Yeah, I mean, so our goal is to support as many artists as possible, but at the same time, right, when you start with a new market, it doesn't make sense to just onboard everybody, and so we're kind of onboarding as many individuals as we can, with the long-term goal of supporting as many artists as we possibly can.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, how much was this piece of art sold for?
So I believe it was 1,000 ETH.
1,000 Ethereum, 3 million.
At the time, that was 1.7.
Wow. Okay. Well, this has just been the beginning of a discussion, and it's too bad that we have to basically end it. Hessel, what do you think? Do you think this is crazy and this is useless, or do you think this is the future of art? What is your conclusion?
It has a crazy side, definitely, and it is a lot of the art collecting is about collecting, and the only thing I doubt is it always about the value of the art itself in terms of how it moves people, instead of does it. It's only about collecting, but on the other hand, I can see this can be a really great opportunity for people like me or other people just doing their thing to get some value for their work as well. So I can see both the positive and the negative. And I also had some questions about the environment, but we couldn't tackle those.
We were to talk about Ethereum 2.0, but we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So,
next time.
But would you basically try it out for one of your pieces of art?
If I get the chance, I would love to put my pieces of shit on SuperRare.
I'll connect you with our curation team.
That would be nice.
Alrighty, we're going to end the conversation. Thank you, but this is not the last conversation. We're going to come back to that, because I also want to come back and interview with a couple of collectors and basically see how they see it. So maybe have artists and collectors together. But this was a very good getting to know your platform, John. Thank you very much for getting up early in the morning in Miami.
Absolutely.
And good luck with your platform and one of the 50 auctions which is happening today.
All right, Vincent.
Stay behind, but we're going to end this broadcast. Okay, thank you very much for the questions, guys.